introducing us as you've been for the last few.
Yes, sir.
Nice.
All right. Let's do this, guys.
It's time.
Hooray! What's happening?
Hey, everybody. Thanks again for joining the Adaptive Podcast. This is episode 9, and we are coming to you live on March 20th at 5:18 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for returning. We see that we already have a lot of subscribers live. That's amazing. Please like and subscribe. Comment during the show. Comment live. We'll bring your comments up. We will bring you in. We'll talk to you. Add to the conversation. It'll be amazing. Today, we're going to go over some injury prevention stuff, some real basics to know for jiu-jitsu and really any sport to kind of help you have longevity and stay in the game longer. And we're going to talk more, of course, about our jiu-jitsu stuff. We're going to go back to Ed Talk, like we introduced last week, where we asked Ed, our favorite resident brown belt, his perspectives and his experiences in training and jiu-jitsu and martial arts in general, since it's not just limited to jiu-jitsu. You can check out our Instagram page at Adaptive Jiu-Jitsu on Instagram, like I just said. We check out all our videos that we do. We have our gear up there, which you can also check out at adaptivejujitsu.com. We have a lot of great stuff, new stuff coming your way. Really, really soon we're going to have that.
Yeah, echo.
Echo already?
Already? Oh, because that's not plugged in? The headphones are plugged in.
Is it really coming back? I don't hear it.
I don't hear it either. The listeners.
That sucks. Anyway, and our podcast is brought to you by Radji Barrett Jiu-Jitsu Academy. You can check him out at Radji Barrett Jiu-Jitsu on Instagram and at RadjiBarrettJiu-Jitsu.com. Check out his schedule, check out his gear. He's got there as well. Recently, his academy had many students compete in the Grappler Industries, which we'll go over a little bit later on in the show. Which is amazing. So congrats to everybody who did enter into that and had their first or repeated competing experiences there. So that's amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome. That was yesterday, and she was there all day. I mean, the tournament itself was a shit show. I've never seen anybody like a tournament that was this unorganized ever. But dude, all our guys came. Some were not too happy about waiting all day, but came out and still overperformed. I felt like and did great, and everybody should be very proud of themselves.
Eli, your mic laptop was open. I just closed it.
Oh, that was the problem.
That was probably the problem. Yeah. Sorry, everyone. Yeah, that's like 3 strikes in a row. We're having production problems, but we're figuring this out. So thank you so much for being patient with us. So back to the Grapplers Industries. You guys were there. I unfortunately couldn't make it, but.
No, it was a good time. I mean, outside of like it being hot as balls in there, especially like
something like a hooker in church.
Oh, dude, it was just like everybody was just breathing.
I got lucky because I showed up late. I had to take.
But you still didn't miss anything.
No, it was still a shit show when I got there.
Yeah.
But I got lucky that I wasn't there when it was hot. Because you sweated through an entire T-shirt. You and Radji did, right?
Yeah, I had to buy a shirt, and it was funny because I bought like a small, and like it was fitted, but it fit me like fine on any other day. And it was like, oh man, I put it on instantly. Like Joe must have read my face. He was like, bro, what, you got small? What are you doing, bro? Go change that. I felt bad. I came back. It's already sweaty. Oh. I was like, I folded up. Like I tried to fold it up. Like, oh man, I hope he doesn't like touch it before he gives me the new one.
Oh man,
he gave me the new one first. I was like, oh thank God. I put the medium on, much better.
You paid it forward,
but I still sweated through that one. Yeah. Someone got that sweaty small.
Yeah.
That sweaty small, baby. That's not what you want.
It was great though. I mean, to see how much of a family we are and the camaraderie with our school.
Yeah, it was awesome. A lot of energy, man. Like, it's funny. Like, I heard it a couple of times from other schools and stuff like that, but like our group like erupted every time.
Every time.
It's pretty awesome.
We were all over everybody. I don't know.
We're spread out too, and not every time were we all together too, which was kind of crazy. We had a bunch of competitors going at the same time.
Yeah,
it was fun.
I've never competed before.
They give me the itch.
Yeah, so I definitely came to a conclusion yesterday that if I compete, it's got to be under 225. I mean, like
So
talking
you don't want to
about
go against some 350.
no thanks. Like, and you know what? It's also like I think a great goal, like 225, and like I'll be very fit. I mean, I feel good right now with Jiu Jitsu, and like
Just think about how much better.
exactly, like dude. So yeah, I think I've set that mark. Not necessarily like, hey, I got to get to 225 because that's how that's where I'm going to get to compete. I'm not looking at it that way. I've just competed my entire life in other sports, and I've been in front of crowds. I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to lose in front of crowds. I know what it's like to win. So for me, I know it's different. 1,000%.
It is because I don't know. For me, the crowd was never a factor when I competed. Dude, I don't even have a chance to think about them. You know what I mean? Like, but you do get wrapped up in that adrenaline dump. Like, I don't know. It's like the nerves of like, this guy's gonna really try to come at me. This isn't like we're just rolling, man. We're not trying to hurt each other. Like this guy potentially could be trying to hurt me. You know what I mean? So you have to have that like tiger mentality going into like I ain't anything fuck with. Like I'm gonna fuck this dude up. You don't have to have that. Like,
I think our
spirit when you're going into a match, and if you don't have that, I mean, it's still like a good experience to go out there, have fun, all that stuff. Like be like a real competitor,
Right. One of our white belts. I think I saw him right now on social media, but Brad, who competed last night,
He killed it, by the way.
Awesome job by him.
My man was so tired, and would get back out there, and he was just working. It was like it was so funny. He'd be like,
How
and then go out there.
too in the stand up.
Man.
I felt
Dude,
like
he had a
proud.
couple
Man.
nice
I was really proud.
Takedowns, bro. He's tough. I remember doing takedown drills with him, and like we were fighting on top for a while, and I thought I had something on me, switching. All of a sudden, getting slammed. I'm like, oh damn, dude, that's strong, dude.
Nice.
And honestly, kudos to Jack too. He had to deal with a lot. Grappler Industries fucking sucks.
Jack, if you're listening, bro, I love you, bro, but you sounded like a scorned woman. You were so, dude. He was butthurt.
Yeah.
I understood. I told you because I get it, dude. I waited a whole day
How
for
long
Naga.
did he wait? Wasn't it 5 hours or something before his first match?
Dude, it just kept. Yeah, more than that. I think he was supposed to go on like 2, and he didn't go on
That
for like
sucks,
6.
dude.
And then I remember he didn't finish his first 4 fights until like 8, and he had to wait a whole other hour for another.
That's right. He didn't even know if he had his 5th match.
Kudos
for
to
an
him
hour.
because he had pent up anger because of how like they were dealing with shit and how bad.
And he said he was going to shut everything off.
And he did.
He did.
Proud of you, bro.
Yeah, man. That first match that we caught, the triangle that he finished,
Oh, dude.
that was awesome.
But dude, it was
Yeah.
from the armbar. He had a really like good transition to the armbar, and he did a little minor error where it slipped out, but he made an amazing adjustment to
Right.
the triangle. It was fucking
That was cool that you guys were able to capture that and feature it on the story. So yeah, congrats, Jack. Congrats to everybody. Hopefully, if I'm reading this right from SmoothComp, it looks like our academy scored 384 total points, 1 gold, 5 silver, and 1 bronze.
And that's awesome comparing to these like Henzo Gracie schools who have like all these people from everywhere competing. For us to rank there, that's pretty damn cool.
That's amazing. And I saw that Radji had some really, really awesome things to say, about all the students in the group me, and I don't want to steal any of that thunder, but if you happen to be listening, we can do an impromptu if you have the time to call in if you want to say something about the competitors. If not, we can save it for next time. No big deal. But no pressure. But Radji, if you want to text one of us, we'll send you a link to drop in real quick and shout some of those guys out. So congrats to everybody who did that. We're really proud of you. That's amazing. Adaptive support you guys 1,000%. So congrats to everybody and anybody who didn't bring home any medal. That's fine, man. That's part of the journey, and we got your back still 100%.
Exactly.
Let's get you there.
I was exactly going to say that we got your back. So like I was talking to Angel yesterday, and he was telling me how he got caught in that Americana. I said, now we got something to work on. Let's go back into the lab. We work on that. We focus on that. And guys, with Ed Talk as well, if you want to send us questions during the week, in person, text message, group me, whatever, it doesn't matter. Hit us up, and we'll have those conversations with Ed, and he'll help to guide us. Put us on the right path.
I will show you the way.
Will you show me are you my queen? Lenny, will you show me the way?
No, but if anybody's got,
I will show you the way.
anybody's, I'd be glad to give you guys any of the knowledge that I have. Still learning,
Yeah.
obviously. We learn this together.
Today's podcast is brought to you by The Way. So yeah, with the competition in light just slightly behind us there, and many more to come, I think this is a good place to start. We wanted to start talking about some basic injury prevention techniques, and they apply not to just Jiu Jitsu, but sports in general. And this is coming from a perspective of people who have been playing sports more or less their whole life, both team and individual sports. And also, disclaimer: we're not doctors, we're not physical therapists, we're none of this.
We're not. You sure?
Not in this country or in this universe.
En Cuba yo era doctor.
Hey, also false. Also false.
Fake news.
Es falso. So but we just like the rest of you, we do research, we look stuff up, and we have anecdotal experience, and we've all been hurt, and we've all tried out different things to get there, and we all want to be able to stay on the mat to train so that we can get to these competitions or help one another train for these competitions. And so we kind of wanted to make it a repeating, maybe not every week, but a thing where we talk about common injuries and ways to prevent them. And some of this stuff is going to seem kind of basic, but it's really good to know. And basic stuff is great because it's easy to remember. And I've included the links in the description section of the YouTube, where you can see the studies and stuff that we pulled this information from that actually validates some of the facts or the theories in the stuff that I'm about to bring up here. So with injury prevention, we've broken it down into 5 things here. Really, really important to keeping yourself healthy and staying on the mats. First thing is hydration.
Dude, I have to say, in the last couple weeks that I've started to focus a little bit more on little ways to improve my training on a daily basis, to have that energy and whatnot. I've been drinking a ton of water, and it's definitely changed my flexibility. And it's funny, it's when you get older, you start to notice a little bit.
It all counts now.
Yeah, it all counts. Every molecule counts.
It's like I need all this shit.
Yeah,
dude,
extra minutes.
You ever notice you drink water the first thing in the morning? How much you just all of a sudden ooh, I feel a little bit more awake than I did 2 seconds ago. It's actually
activate.
Yeah, but I think it's better than coffee in that sense, where literally goes through your fucking system.
You want to fight?
You want to fight?
You want to fight right now?
You're talking shit about coffee?
Yeah, you better shut up about talking about coffee like that.
Coffee number 2.
Non-coffee drinker.
Yeah. So this study was done by the National Library of Medicine, and I have the link in the description section there. And one of the main reasons is that when you're dehydrated, your muscles and the muscle tissues actually become less pliable, right? Which makes sense. So they're not think about a rubber band that's very restrictive or whatever, or that's old and rotten. It doesn't have that pliability. It's only going to have so much of a range, and that increases your risk for injury. So that's a simple thing. And the interesting thing that I saw in this study too is that it only takes about 1 to 2% of overall dehydration level, I guess by body weight, because we carry about a certain percentage of water, right? 1 to 2% to start dramatically decreasing your exercise performance.
So it has an overall effect.
Yeah, and when you think about a common way to make weight is to what? Dehydrate yourself.
Right.
So just for some quick math, I weigh 175 pounds. What's 1% of that is 1.7, right? So that's not a lot of weight. I don't know how much a gallon of water weighs, but that little much, and that's not a weight. That's not a weight.
It is a measurement.
It is a measurement. Yeah.
It's a measurement by volume, not by weight. But so that's not that much, right? That's not that many glasses of water per se that I would have to cut out before I start seeing a diminishing return on my performance.
When you're dehydrated, you don't feel thirsty first. You feel thirsty after you're dehydrated.
Yes.
There's time passes and then you get thirsty. So you're already dehydrated and you don't know that you're supposed to drink water yet.
Yeah. You start, exactly. You feel it afterwards. You feel thirsty afterwards.
Right.
So you don't even know, right? Most people are like, oh my God, I need water right now.
Bro, how many times I've gone into the gym and I've been like, why do I feel like I'm in such a funk? Oh, this and that. And I start blaming it on like
Work.
the entire day and like, yeah, like work.
Word.
And it's easy to do that, but if you're doing what you're supposed to do,
pay attention to our bodies.
right. Give it water.
Yeah, actually,
This is made like 60% or 70% of it.
we're just too distracted.
Yeah.
Like giving a shit about that.
Yeah.
Just give a shit about so many other things. It's not
Yeah.
fun.
Of course.
Another conversation.
Which is also nuts too, by the way. I'm sorry. Like you look at high school sports and you look back in time, like it's not a lot better now. I mean, everybody's a snowflake now with everything, but back in the day, like you were a pussy if you stopped to drink water. Like they would tell their players, like you can't drink water. Like you have to keep going. You're not allowed to water break or whatnot. And then
It's a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
That shit in Jiu Jitsu. No, they don't have ACs in Brazil. What? What we do here?
well, can you at least get a dehumidifier?
Yeah.
Can I have a towel?
Yeah.
Ew, all right.
We're supposed to be
Speaking of which,
adapting with the times, boys.
that reminds me, whoever's shooting those videos with the soaking wet mats, stop.
Oh, the Meow Brothers.
Stop.
Right now.
Dude, the funny thing
It's
is,
so
they
gross.
actually posted like a behind the scenes thing and he's just dumping a gallon of water.
Why?
everywhere.
It doesn't look cool. It looks disgusting.
It doesn't make any sense, and I see it all the time.
What is the effect? Like, and then you're gonna show like,
Hard work, bro. You see that, you're like, those motherfuckers sweat today. They're
Yeah.
working harder than us. And it's like, oh man, that's inspiration. I don't really want to roll in that. I want to work as hard as they do. That's obviously
Hey,
what they're going for.
Do you want to know a sign of dehydration?
Hey, do you want to know what it's like?
Your mats are soaking wet with your sweat.
Do you want to know what it's like swimming and rolling? at the same time?
you want to swim?
Yeah.
Little
Yeah,
swim.
you want to swim?
Wait. I thought it was called flowing. No. You want to swim?
It's- we're literally gonna swim.
No, we're literally going to be swimming with sharks right now.
So the next really important thing in injury prevention is sleep. And
Yeah.
a couple reasons.
Damn it. Man, you're just saying all the important ingredients to living.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
the third most
I-
important thing is to breathe.
Make sure you breathe while you're on the
Yeah.
mouse. I gave you guys a disclaimer that was going to sound basic, but
Yeah.
it's easy
It's
because
true.
it makes it easier for
We
for people to
overlook the
remember.
shit. Hey,
We
it's
overlook
so
it.
We overlook the basics in jiu-jitsu too, and those fundamentals are like the most important shit, right?
And then
Just like your
and
health.
then we say, why isn't my training getting better? Well, maybe it's because you're not paying attention to how your body is supposed to work.
Right. So let's dive into the sleep, Lenny.
So sleep for a lot of reasons. Obviously, you want to feel rested, you want to feel better on the mats. But the other reasons behind it are that a lack of sleep increases stress, which increases the chances that you have weight gain, and it messes up your metabolic system. So your insulin resistance levels, things like that, and insulin kind of causes weight gain. So if your pancreas needs to adjust and secrete more insulin when you're eating carbs and things like that, which is normal for everybody. But the more that it does that, the more your body wants to hang on to the fat cells, which is going to put stress on your joints, weaken your joints, make you more prone to injury. Right? Also make you require more water, make it harder for you to stay hydrated, which kind of ties into point one.
I would imagine too that giving your body the chance to be scheduled is probably another thing that's important that goes with sleep. So, like if you go to bed every single night at midnight, at least your body has that schedule. So you could train yourself maybe to go midnight to 6 a.m. And if you do that
It's all
consistently,
about routine.
right?
Doesn't matter when, as long as you work it out in your routine.
Right. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you're erratic in your sleep schedule and when you go to bed, it's going to be harder to fall asleep. It's going to be harder to get good rest. It's going to be harder to feel refreshed in the morning.
But forget about just daily activities. Think about how you don't realize how much you reduce your actual physical and mental capabilities just by like sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Like depriving yourself of like good sleep, where you basically heal your body every night,
Mhm.
every day. What keeps you younger? You take years off your life by like bad sleep deprivation, and your sleep's all erratic, like you're saying, all fucked up, and get like 2-4 hours of sleep and shit.
Yeah.
I'm laughing in my head right now because I'm thinking about like you basically have scheduled poops. Like, like that's a poop in the morning. If you don't get that poop in the morning, you're like, fuck, man, what's going on? Why is my body?
You're like,
weird?
work is going to be weird today.
Shit, that just threw everything off.
Make sure you schedule your pumps.
So this stuff that we're quoting from for the sleep segment, there was a study done by the University of Chicago, and another reason why it actually leads to weight gain is because it fucks with your appetite. So it boosts your appetite and you boost your cravings, not sleeping enough. So it encourages you to eat more, probably the wrong things when you have weird appetites.
So that's why I get the munchies at night.
That's exactly why. The only reason why, the sole reason why Elijah has the munchies at night. He doesn't sleep.
Eli, though.
So, so that ties into the next point in some of these studies here. Just looking for the banner is nutrition. Of course, the next obvious step in injury prevention. Staying on the mat.
He's just bringing up everything that I have trouble with.
Hey, you said we want to do benchmarks, right? And circle back. So this is just
This is just Eli intervention right now.
and that's why I was starting with the basics, right? These are the 5 very basic points on how we can all improve our training and our longevity on the mat. So with nutrition, some of the interesting points that we came across here is that every single person has different dietary needs, right? You can say, oh, this person's on keto, it worked for them. This person did high protein, it worked for them. Fine. It's not going to work for everybody. And you need to test those grounds to see how you feel, to kind of mess with the ratios of your macros. And anybody who does nutrition, weightlifting, fitness is going to know what your macros are, which is your carbs, your fat, and your protein, all in grams typically here. So mess with, try with different diets, try it for a couple months, obviously eating clean, but see what you feel the best on. What's giving you the results. Maybe it's not giving
everybody's different too.
Everybody's different. Maybe it's not giving you the drastic like weight loss results that you want, but you feel awesome, right? And now you're training awesome. So maybe that's your status quo, man. Maybe you shouldn't be this thing, this goal. Maybe you have unrealistic goals, I'm saying, and test the waters. Is what this says. The best nutrition plan is one that makes you feel good and one that you can stick to. So nothing super unrealistic, and something that fits your body type the right way.
Like what are the diets called? The crazy ones. I forgot the name of them. Crash diets, right? Crash diets, is that what they're called?
I don't know about crash diets.
I think that's basically like when you.
Is that just a term for
when you try to do something that's dramatic,
right?
Like a dramatic diet that just
Don't eat.
Like
it's like a high rate of failure. Yeah,
I'm just gonna eat oatmeal all day, and like that's the only thing I can eat, and like I'm not gonna eat anything else, or I'm gonna just eat potatoes. Like that's all I'm eating.
Potatoes. It's just in time for St. Patty's Day.
And also,
this episode is brought to you by potatoes.
By Irish potatoes.
I've never heard of that, but
potatoes?
No, potatoes. No, crash diet, but I believe that that's definitely something.
For me,
they get really dramatic.
When I lose control. When I lose weight, when I lose weight is when I'm consistently working out. Training is the best workout I've ever done in my life. Jiu Jitsu training, but portion control. I mean, if you're eating, if you know that you're eating like I think Radji told me it was like 0.6 ounces of a protein, and then like a fistful of like a carb or something like that, or like vegetables. Like that's a nice portion. Like you should be training your stomach to stay small. Because if you are overeating all the time, you're like, oh, this just tastes so good, and you're just satisfying yourself through the flavor of the food,
carbs,
and that's all you're focused on, then all of a sudden your stomach grows, instead of being, the size of a potato, it's now the size of like a freaking like watermelon. Like, you know what I mean? And now you can overeat all the time.
Right. That and overeating like the sugars and the carbs and stuff, it changes the flora in your stomach, which makes you feel hungrier.
Right.
There's a weird bacteria that lives in your stomach that
you
craves
got all this
sugar.
stomach gut
It actually
bacteria.
sends signals to your brain that tells you, I want more sugar right
That's
now.
why your stomach makes the noise. That's why it starts to gargle when that.
Yeah, because if you're
more
notice,
sugar,
you just wait one more hour and you get past it.
you have to wait until you salivate. you salivate. That's when
that's when you're actually
when you actually need food.
But that's
food.
why fasting's so important, man. And you realize it too, dude. I don't even purposely do this, but because of work and like my scheduling and everything, it's like I'll usually, eat around like 6 or 8 at night, sometimes later. But then I won't eat again until like 2 in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's a long time to fast. And there's moments like in the morning where I'm like, ugh, I'm hungry, and then like after like an hour, it's like I don't feel it anymore. I probably can go like more of the day, but I'm like, I probably should eat now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But
and you were talking before water being better than coffee. If you're fasting and you do it the right way, and you're also you have good nutrition and have a good diet prior to doing a fast, you get mad energy from a fast. You get super focused.
Again, fasting only works if you're eating correctly too.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah. You may need to do a fast to cleanse, but once you have a good diet and a good rhythm, some fasting and focused fasting.
Yeah, because dude, we don't have to eat as much as we fucking do. That's the thing.
No, that's an American. That's
a first world.
You owe me Coca-Cola.
That's a first world privilege. Everybody.
Coca-Cola should not be part of the nutrition. Not be part of the diet.
Cokes.
No.
Yeah, that shit's Pepsi and all that stuff's the worst.
Oh, it's the worst. It's liquid cancer. Is what it is.
Dude, most of our food is just
Sugar.
Yeah, so make sure you guys eat the right stuff. If you want to have a long training career, eat the right stuff. Do what makes you feel good. So the next point is actually doing the right types of strength training.
So this is a good one. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Trattini, he was like talking to us about a leg program without using weights. But it's funny. He was like, guys, I found a weight training program. But he never told us anything. He was just like, yeah, this is awesome, cool. And then he never told us anything. So I gotta bust his balls the next time.
It's a cliffhanger.
Right.
He gave you a
It's like
cliffhanger.
a week. I forgot about that actually because I thought he was gonna get back to us.
Me too. He just never showed
Thanks,
up.
Mike.
Thank you.
Maybe it was because you didn't show any interest.
I did show interest.
Yeah.
So the reason I had, I was just talking to them and I was like, hey, you guys notice like some weakness in your knees or anything like that? Because jiu-jitsu it strengthens all these like certain muscles, but then there's things that like certain knee things that you do and certain hip flexor movements are weakened a little bit because of, I guess, like the knees going
I
inward
have to
sometimes.
move to like recognize.
Because I was thinking about it.
Where I'm hurting.
Yeah.
Where is the pain?
Sometimes you can engage like the certain things until you do that specific movement. Even like you're trying to poke around on your shoulder, like why doesn't it hurt? Like why can't I find it? But then when you move a certain way, you're like, oh, there it is. You can't actually reach it like exterior.
So I was saying, what do you guys do to help supplement? Because I need to get back to supplementing my training. I was doing it maybe like 6 months ago, and I was starting to see like dramatic increases in the gym. But I stopped because it got cold. I was doing my workouts in here in the garage, but then I stopped. And as jiu-jitsu practitioners, you just want to get to the gym. Like that's all you're focused on. You don't focus on the cross training to make your training in the gym better. But when you do, it's such a difference.
Yeah.
We all were. We used to be very active and playing multiple sports throughout the year and shit like that. I haven't been like that in the last like 5 years. Like that's one thing I am lacking. I used to be so active, but like I don't know. All my focus goes into jiu-jitsu, and my body's also like recovering. But you're right. It's like probably that's part of the strength training, right?
Mm-hmm. And Ed mentioned a really good point earlier. He said,
"Who
you did?
I did.
Yeah, you said that everything counts. So as Lenny's going through this, like if we don't focus and try our best and going through these layers, the older you get. That's why for some of the younger people in our gym or anybody younger listening, if you're doing anything sports related, competing, whatever you're doing, you need to do these. You need to focus on these things because as you get older, it gets harder.
Well, it gets harder
so
to get
harder.
back into a routine of something if you broke the routine.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I've definitely noticed. It's like, do I need to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easier to talk yourself out of shit,
Mm-hmm.
because you're just a little bit more sore. Just a little bit more. It's so fucking gradual.
It's harder to get started than to actually just go through with it. A lot of times,
once you get going, you get past all
the mental block.
It's also like
it loosens you up. It feels good.
You don't notice it. When you get a little bit older and you notice a little bit, so then it's like each time it's like, oh, every time I start up, it's a little tougher, you know. But once you're in the thick of any training, I don't care what age you are, if you can get past that, however tough it is in the beginning, like you were saying, then you're good.
I would also say that these things that you've brought up so far, they're almost like if you focus on all these things, they almost act like a fountain of youth. You keep yourself
absolutely
on all these things.
Shit.
It's awesome. Absolutely all of these things, yeah, and they're basically
along with your mentality, right?
Something that everybody can do. This is nothing. It's not like secrets, you know. It's basics that you can make small steps towards, having long-term goals in here. One of the other things in strength training, like just like any other sport, right? We're obviously jiu-jitsu centric in our conversations, but you're going to have repetitive things that are going to get developed, which is going to leave other things underdeveloped, right? So overdevelopment leads to underdevelopment. So in the strength training aspect, you want to seek out the things that you don't want to do. You know what I mean? Like know what your weak points are and try to work on those. Like nothing crazy, right? Like nobody, like the exercise that you hate, right? Like lateral raises or whatever it might be. Everyone wants to do, push-ups, sit-ups, and the stuff that's easy for them. Maybe it's not easy for you, and you have a weakness there. You want to improve on it. But that's my point.
You're always garbage when you start.
Well, the thing is, right?
Look for your weaknesses and try to exploit them on your own and target them for your strength training.
It's like whenever in any category of anything, right? When somebody sees something that I want to do that, right? You usually see the sexy side of it or whatever, and they're like, I want to do the flashy shit, and it's like they get immediately discouraged when they have no fundamentals into whatever they're doing. So it's like, yo, man, you'll be able to, maybe not master, but you'll be able to be good at your craft. And just stick with it.
I think it's also a beautiful thing about, the people that get it. They ask questions. They can communicate what their weaknesses are and not be afraid to have that conversation with another person. And I feel like that's how it is with training partners. Like people you train with, when you're like, hey man, I'm having a really tough time, XYZ, like you're telling the person how they're exploiting you. Like you're communicating. And then when your partner tells you, well, you do this. And we do that because we know that by teaching somebody something is going to make them better, which is going to have the transitive property of making you better. But in the same concept or idea, you're actually communicating to somebody like, hey, I suck at this. Help me get better. Like that's such an important psychological thing for you to be able to conquer. Because some people have such a large ego that they can't be like, hey man, how do I stop this knee on belly?
Or first they gotta recognize
you just see them struggle.
Yeah, you just see them struggle and they get so angry and frustrated. Instead of just looking at their training partner and saying, you're awesome. How can I get better? How can I grow in this situation?
Yeah, right. Rarely someone's going to tell you to fuck off. I mean, nobody in our academy is going to tell you to fuck off. So ask questions, guys. Ask them.
Yeah.
I mean,
the three of us will answer you.
I mean, if someone says fuck off because you're like, I just went, hey, did you just show me what you did? Well,
I mean, I was, that was
like,
fuck you.
That was an exaggeration.
No. Well, no, but hey, if it did happen to that extreme, I would say find a new school. But
seriously,
and that's just adding to your point. But
right.
That would be pretty extreme. So it's like, fuck off, loser. Like,
yeah.
Like,
fuck off, loser.
Yeah.
So the fifth point to injury prevention is mobility.
Stretch.
Yeah. Stretch and similar to the strength training thing, target where your tightness is and spend 10 to 15 minutes both in the morning and at night trying to target those stretches, right? Is it your lower back? Is it your hips? Is it an old injury? Your shoulders? My right shoulder is shot to shit.
This might be my worst.
Not to shit, but it was bad. But it'll make a big difference, and it won't take that long. So I still do a lot of stretches all the time. I used to do more kind of mindful and focused stretching than I do now, but I still do it. I can still touch the floor and stuff like that. So it's not too bad.
Like that in your life?
No, jiu-jitsu actually inspired me too, because I felt a lot of tightness when we first started in my hamstrings and stuff. I remember, which was weird because, you know, right when we started, we were still playing a lot of sports. We were running around a lot.
You just realize in jiu-jitsu you use muscles you've never used before.
Yeah, and I think it was different in my game at first, and it has developed into now too, but I liked a lot of guard stuff. I spent a lot of time on my back moving my legs around, so I had a lot of tightness and I had a lot of soreness afterwards. So I was like, I got to get more flexible. I have to. So I started stretching more, and I couldn't touch my toes when I first started, honestly, and now I can touch the floor.
Yeah, I can do that stuff, and I still feel like I can't really, not flexible at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm way more flexible than I used to be for sure, but it's like, damn, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 8 years. I should be able to, like, I don't know, be more like Eric, you know, Delgado, bro. Like,
Well,
He's Gumby.
yeah, seriously, he's like rubber man.
we should all fuck it. That's the bar.
We should aspire, but
That's
the
what I'm
guy,
saying,
the
that's
guy
the
could
bar.
like sit down and go right into
Shout out to
lotus.
him. Miss you, buddy.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a while. He could straight go in the lotus, like sit down and go in the lotus.
Bro, I feel like I'm like, yo, are we rolling? Are we doing some, you know, like,
I've
what are we
been,
doing? Some yoga? What's going on right now?
I would say that I've been flexible my whole life. For a big guy, like, I think I'm pretty flexible. But jiu-jitsu has like taught me about where I'm tight, like places that, like I actually, one of my buddies has his wife is a physical therapist, and she evaluated me and like she gave me some stretches to do, and she explained to me that from playing baseball and catching my entire life, that my hip flexors were very flexible in the open flexion or something like that, which is where you get most of your range out of your pelvis. But the other range, so like for example, if you were to lay on your back and bring your leg and cross it over your waist to try to stretch out your lower back, kind of, that flexion, which is a shorter range, I'm very tight in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that jiu-jitsu has like taught me, like, oh, I need to stretch this
Hip
out.
switch.
And those small ranges are what makes my knee sore, because that connects all the way down to it. So it's crazy because I've always been able to put my palm right on the ground, and be able to do everything. But even doing like barambolos, like I'm realizing, and I've gotten. I'm sorry. I think I've gotten pretty decent at them now.
Okay,
I'm okay at them for what I am. Like, yeah, but I had
come a long way though.
So this is one of the questions I wanted to go through, so I'll bring it up now. I was going to ask you guys about, like, I thought it'd be cool. I don't know if Lenny had it on the docket, but maybe talk about some of our injuries and like what we do to try to protect ourselves a little bit. So I had C3 and C4, bulging discs. The jelly came out. That's what happens. There's like you have your actual spine, and
right?
then you have the jelly in between each vertebrae. I think between every vertebrae. And from working on a machine, I was inside and it was cold. It was below freezing. And I was in an uncomfortable position with my neck kind of cranked, looking up. And when I came out, it was stiff. And that was it.
Just from holding that position for a while.
Yeah,
crazy. Like something so simple.
So simple can mess you up.
Yeah.
But the therapy I did, I stuck to it. I did it right. I did all the chin tucks and everything, and all the different exercises, and it fixed my neck. It fixed the disc. I was really lucky. I do still feel some arthritis from it when I do barambolos, but again, doing all those things are strengthening. Like practicing it is strengthening. Knowing that I should be rolling on my shoulders, not my neck, but still just being there is already strengthening those tiny fibers and whatnot. I had, before jiu-jitsu, I had a torn labrum, which I had surgery on, and jiu-jitsu has made all of that stronger. I hope that's not one of my calves.
That sucks.
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
if we
real
told you.
bad.
Shout out to Mike.
Well, I followed it, and
He fought hard.
I didn't see that specific injury, but I mean, the shoulder, it's only like one of 4 things that happens, right? So they're all bad. All bad.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
Mike. We wish you a speedy recovery, brother.
What about your shoulder? What happened to you?
So with me,
was like
And
5 years ago now. Right?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because we're not going to go into it tonight because there's so much detail that we can go into. But this injury prevention thing led me into what are the most common injuries in jiu-jitsu, and I'll list them off tonight, the top 5, and maybe we'll go into it next week or a week after. And there's also a really great Henry Gracie video that goes into way detail of these top common injuries and why they occur and what to do otherwise. Mine was my shoulder, and I'll explain that in a second. But the top 5 injuries in jiu-jitsu are back, neck, knee, shoulders, and ears.
Cauliflower ear.
Yeah, cauliflower ear. And, in a later episode, we'll go into detail on some of those and, why and how to prevent them. But for me, it was my shoulder. I had a separated shoulder, undiagnosed. So I never actually,
So
I don't,
dislocated?
I don't know exactly what it was, but
When you say separate, you mean dislocated?
no, separated is the AC joint, like where your collarbone comes, and this ligament that attaches your arm
So
to
that
your
ripped.
collarbone, basically.
So that ripped.
And it was self-diagnosed because when I looked in the mirror, I can tell that my right arm was way dropped. Like when I would square up my shoulders, my right arm was,
happening to Mike this
and I can see it. I honestly, there wasn't a single event that I remember where it popped or it tore or anything, nothing. I just remember I trained one day and, afterwards, maybe you roll a couple times and you're like, oh, there's kind of a little bit of throbbing, but I don't remember it getting tweaked or yanked or anything weird. And the pain just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And then it got to the point where I couldn't even move it without like wincing or fucking complaining.
Shit, man. I felt like in the beginning you like trained like twice in 2 months, and I feel like you came back too early and it hurt.
I came back too early, and
I
I
took like 4 or 6 months off.
Yeah, I reheard it like 2 or 3 times actually, because I tried to do
You
the
took time off.
hand in my belt and try, but it was weird because my right shoulder I couldn't prop. When you're in half guard, you want to get some leverage by getting up on your elbow into your hand, essentially, and I just couldn't do that. There were so many things I couldn't do, and even if I tucked it in my belt, I was having difficulty, I guess, isolating my arm from the equation.
Everybody probably their strong side was going to that side against that. And you're like, fuck.
And
get over to the other side.
And it was just tough. I came back too soon, and then after that, that's like you said, I decided, listen, as hard as it is, I'm just gonna take 4 or 5 months off. I wish that I would have had the mindset now, like, I was still connected to everything, but I wasn't coming in as much. I should have been coming in and observing and stuff like that, which is something that I would seek to do now in my.
You don't live as close either, so it's not.
Yeah, that one's mine.
You're right. Just saw it.
Yeah. So if any of you guys listening have, or girls have experienced any of those injuries or anything outside of those 5 that we just mentioned,
Is anybody commenting?
let us know. We have a few comments. They're coming in. Eli is on the comments. Thank you guys so much for listening in. We love you all. We love your participation. It's amazing. We didn't really promote this one too much as well again today. We're working on that, but we actually still have a pretty good turnout, which is awesome. So that's it. That's basic injury prevention. 5 easy points to remember. We're going to go into some more details of the common injuries and stuff maybe at a later date, but that's it. If you guys want to look more into it, sorry, Ed, if you guys want to look more into it, I did include the study links in the descriptions there, so you can do your own research, your own opinions on some of that stuff and get some more information on how.
If you're listening, this isn't like a bad thing to start looking into all the aspects of health and stuff like that, just to keep, like you've been saying, longevity of your training and overall healthy life.
It's something you should be often discussing with your partners. It's important to communicate where you're hurt. It's important to
and there's no shame in I feel like some people don't feel proud. Like I don't know if that I don't think that's a thing in our gym, but I'm just saying in general. If you ever have an injury, you don't have to have any pride. You just go, hey, let's just flow, or can we just work on some stuff because my shoulders really hurt, or my knees really hurt.
It's a really tough thing for injuries aside. It's a really tough thing, I think, for people to learn that to get better at jiu-jitsu doesn't mean that you have to go 110 in offensive attacking or giving up positions. Like you said it to me just recently. You were like, there's a lot of times I'll be in a role and I will make the decision I'm not going to fight this one because he's got a good grip or he's got a good positioning, and I let him just take that over because fighting that is going to take more energy. And now all of a sudden, what he thought he had control, he just got swept because you allowed him to take his own motion instead of fighting that position as hard as you can. And that's part of like learning how to manage
what I was basically
intensity.
saying is like you don't have to win every exchange.
Yes.
Like sometimes it's like, think of it as a game of chess, right? Everybody makes this comparison, but it could be a long game, it could be the long run. So you could think of it as like, all right, you go with your partners all the time. All right, so like sometimes they get you in a move. Maybe you can fight out of it, you know? But sometimes let's see where it goes because now you'll just have a better understanding of your awareness of the situation. And it's good to soak it in. Don't feel like, oh, I just got beat. Think of it as like, I just figured you out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it's a good way to look at it because then all of a sudden you look at it as like a long game. And all of a sudden you start like, oh, fuck. Think about that. It's like one thing when something was working, and all of a sudden you made that adjustment because you're letting them work it on you, and all of a sudden they can't now. And you're like, they have nothing in return because they haven't been working on anything because they can get shit easily.
Right. It's a roadblock and you don't have a detour.
If I was also talking to myself at the very least, very early on, I would tell myself, don't look at the belt. Be consistent in your intent of what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's a brown belt or a purple belt, like set your intent. And even if you're failing over and over again, that's okay because that's what's going to sharpen those edges so that you can be explosive when you need to be, and you could be intelligent or more like thought provoking or like imaginative in your role. Like that's what'll give you that edge. If you're able to look at each competitor and say, I'm gonna set my intent here. I'm in the gym. I'm training. Obviously, your intent in a competition like yesterday is going to be way different than when you're rolling. Like if you and me are rolling, I'm not going to look at you like I'm competing with you in an event unless we both said, hey man, let's go at it. Like I'm not going to do that because that doesn't make sense because am I really going to learn from all that? You know what I mean?
Well, the difference too is like I was just explaining, if you're a good partner and if you yourself are a good, trainer, like in training and stuff like that, you would absorb shit, you would take beatings, and you would also, it's like a give and take kind of thing. But when you're competing, you better have a little bit of a game plan, and you should also be able to, if you can't implement that game plan, if they put something on you quicker, that you have your, checks and balances, your
parameters.
Yeah, you know exactly how you're going to react so you can get back into the game plan you're doing. Mm-hmm. That's like, to me, it's like,
I think that's a great point. Have some sort of game plan where you're like, okay, maybe this is how I start. Maybe I end up in this top position, or if he pulls guard, I'm going to do this, right? You have a plan B, but have maybe a roadmap, right? Do this, go for the underhook here, try to get this position, see if I can advance here and then go for this.
Think about it. If you formulate your game and you come up with, this is what I'm going to do.
Continuously practice
and you're practicing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then, right, secondarily, you should look at, okay, if they potentially can get me out of this because this is the angle that I'm coming at, there's only so many ways they could probably sweeten me or whatever. And if they do, you should understand if they do, how do I get back to where I was to implement what I know to finish? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's like a circle thing, in the sense of like, I could just get back to your avenues of like your transitions and your
like
sequences.
what you feel like you can, the blockchains like that you create, like you create like these like segments of.
Well, it's like, when Radji's teaching us and he shows us like different avenues, and he's always comes full circle back to like, see, now you have the own pot from the arm bar here, and it's like, okay, I have that, and if that doesn't work, then you can use like different segues to different like transitions of sequences. You know what I mean? You can still get like 4 different things, or 5 different things.
What are those charts called?
A flow chart?
Is it a flow chart? No, I'm talking about the diagrams where it shows you like you go to knee on belly. For knee on belly, you go for the far side arm.
Oh,
Well,
like
yeah.
a jiu-jitsu diagram?
Yeah, where it's like a circle and
I'm
it
not
does like.
familiar with a...
Lenny's
What, the
showed
Da Vinci
me
thing?
before. Yeah, it kind of looks like that. It kinda
I
looks like
don't. I forget specifically what that
You know
type
what I'm
of chart
talking
is
about, right?
called, but yes,
Yeah.
I know. I know what you're
it
talking
kind of
about.
shows you how to like. It's something that, like, it helps you set your intent. So you start off like in the middle, and then it goes to side control. And if you go to side control, like what you go to north south. If north south,
Yeah,
doesn't
I mean,
work,
I would
go
call.
to
I want to call it a
Laura,
flow chart. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it had another name, but it does make sense.
it probably
to
does.
call it a flow chart. But
We're
it's
not data scientists, okay?
But the reason I bring it up is because it's not like when I started writing in a notebook about what I was doing in jiu-jitsu, which at times can be tough to stay consistent with. Like,
You still have a notebook?
I do.
You still writing it?
I do still write in it, but I don't write in it as much. And one of
Do
the
you feel like it benefits you?
100%. I think that the only reason I haven't been doing it as much as I want is because I'm putting a lot more attention into filming our classes and filming, like, essentially like our adventure of like how we're progressing as individuals. And I know that our videos and stuff is going to grow. Like, eventually it's going to start to not just be recaps of classes and of training, but there'll be, videos of us having discussions about something that we dealt with in the evening where we learned from. Like, hey, this is something important. Like, we want to put this out there.
Be a dickhead.
Yeah, how to not be a dickhead.
The videos have been getting awesome, man. I mean, the account is great. I hope that you guys
Yeah.
enjoy Elijah, our social media managers, managing of the account. It's been awesome. He's the one who edits all those videos together. We all kind of contribute to the shots and stuff like that, but really, he's the one learning how
The only
to
thing
use
I
it.
do is film here and there.
Only reason I'm able to do any of what I've done is because I hear the feedback from these two. So it's honestly, it's a collective effort.
Sucks and it gets better.
It's a collective
It's
effort.
that easy.
It's that
I mean,
easy.
You suck, bro. And then I get a little bit.
he's very competitive. I mean, you just tell him he can, and he does it. Elijah, thank you for your social media stuff.
Thank you for being a friend.
Ow!
Oh.
I did it too soon. Yeah, so with that, we're kind of running on time here, which is awesome. The time gets away from us as we have these conversations, and thank you guys for contributing to that. We have some live comments here that have been going on. We really haven't been able to get to any of them so far.
Wait, there's one that's amazing, but I guess we should save it for last.
Well, no, we got AMAC, Mark Reyes, Phil, Ray. You guys are awesome. Probably some of the most supportive audience that we have. We love all you guys. Thank you so much. Amanda looks like she was annoyed before that we were talking in an Irish accent. Amanda says, "Don't slander my people." I'm pretty sure she's talking about the potatoes. Phil,
Irish potatoes.
hello, Vietnam from Phil. We love you, Phil. Thanks again for joining us. We see Mark Reyes. Shout out to you, Mark. We haven't forgotten about your t-shirt. We just haven't been able to see you at the gym yet. We have that for you. We haven't forgotten. Thank you so much for supporting us. AMAC again, stretching has a lot of long-term benefits. We love that. And then moving on to our injuries, Ray tore his nutsack. We remember that.
Recovering.
Yeah. Sorry, Ray. And I hope your nutsack has made a full recovery. I hope all three are well, or two.
Well, technically, and Ray's next question, does our school compete against other schools? Well, that's what happened at the competition yesterday. Is a bunch of students from different schools will compete, and like Lenny was saying earlier, we scored a certain amount of points because a lot of our guys placed, and then they tallied up between the schools. I don't know how many schools. I think it was over 20 schools or something like that, right? And, we did well.
Shout out to Radji Barrett Jiu Jitsu Academy, sponsor of our podcast, inspiration for the brand. Amazing job to everybody who competed yesterday. Just wanted to shout out you guys again. You did awesome. You deserve it. Yeah. You deserve it. Hard work, a lot of lessons learned, like there is every time, but
Only gonna get better.
only going to get better. You guys are amazing. So that being said, Ed, you said before, you think, in your opinion, it's better to have a game plan moving forward. What else do you think for Ed Talk as we move into our next segment, besides having a game plan for competition? Any other things that come to top of mind?
I mean, usually it's funny. Like yesterday, I heard amongst a few of our competitors when they talked about the cardio, and that's probably one of the easiest fixes. But I mean, that goes into like some of the health stuff that Lenny was talking about earlier. It's like strength conditioning and stuff like outside of jiu-jitsu, putting in like runs and a little bit of workout routines where like you're just making your body have better conditioning and stuff like that. Sometimes like as you progress in jiu-jitsu, you don't have to exert as much energy, so you're not using any cardio, believe it or not. So it's like that's why you have to do other things as well.
You might
Unless
start
you're being
dipping.
like really tested by somebody that's your same belt level, obviously.
Mm-hmm. So maybe you're dipping because you're becoming more efficient, but in a way it's like a double-edged sword, because if you're not paying attention to
it can be
right,
good,
because if you're more efficient, you're like, I don't have to use as much.
Yeah,
maybe you
because it has nothing to do with skill, but it has everything to do with like your
management.
Yeah, basically that your body, what it can go through, like and not only that, it's like, think about it. You put the work in, your mental toughness goes through the roof, because you're like, yeah, I know for a fact I put all the work that I needed to put in, and I did what I needed to do. Like,
right.
I don't feel like shit. I could have worked out a little bit harder. Like that one day, like I made a little bit excuse. If you put in that hard work where you feel confident in yourself, like, yeah, like undeniably, where you're not lying to yourself, like there wasn't a few cheat days, like, you know what I mean? Like, then obviously your overall performance is gonna be better, your cardio is gonna be better. But that's what I think.
So I'm trying to understand a little bit here. So what you're saying is that as you advance, you get better at what you're doing, but you may not realize that you're actually using less energy. So you're losing some of your gas tank.
I'm saying it's a possibility, because as you know, like, especially if you get to a point in jiu-jitsu where you're a higher belt than most people, sometimes it's like your technique can get you through a lot. You don't have to exert a lot of energy, so you're not as tired. Think about it. Like, think about like somebody like Radji, probably does like 30% and makes you drain 150%. What the fuck? Like, I didn't even move, and I'm so tired. Like, he just controlled me all the time. Like, I just felt like I was trying, you know what I mean? Like something like that, and that's just an example of like a higher belt, that can control somebody to the point where they're not really.
Guys, I'll be right back. I gotta pee so bad.
Yeah. And
Don't
so,
mute me.
I didn't mute you. No, you should be all there.
Just somebody text us if you can.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. For me, it's like this could be just a personal thing, because I don't like. Again, like I'm less. I don't even fucking stretch really outside of jiu-jitsu.
You never stretch, bro.
It's bad.
It's crazy.
Hang on. You ever see Zombieland?
Yeah.
Okay. You want to hear my philosophy? Remember fucking what was his name? Woody Harrelson. And he's talking about like, why are you stretching? He's fucking stretching over there. Not Woody Harrelson. He's talking to the other actor, and he's like, I gotta stretch before we go. There might be some zombies. He's like, you see a lion wake up and he goes to eat. You see him stretching before he goes and eats. And it's like, it's funny because it's like, no, you don't. But fucking lions stretch.
Hell yeah, I was just thinking that. Lions definitely
It's a
stretch.
bullshit philosophy.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any fucking sense, guys.
No,
There should be a disclaimer.
Every time my dogs get up, they stretch.
Of course.
Stretch out.
But they stretch once though. You don't see them like us, like 30 seconds. But like, it's true, man. They stretch when they wake up. That's like a quick little stretch, and you're ready to go.
I'm ready to go.
Fuck it, I'm a lion, bro. I don't need to stretch.
So
I'm just kidding. Everybody should stretch out there.
So there's definitely obviously very, very easy ways to ensure that your gas tank is optimal, like following some of the steps that Lenny highlighted at the beginning of the podcast. But what other steps would you say to take in preparing for a competition to make sure that you got as much of it.
I would really pay attention to your sleep.
Other than the stuff that Lenny brought up.
Don't overtrain.
Yeah.
You know, I would say, you know, not for nothing, Trevor, you know,
Yeah.
my boy Trevor,
Yeah.
fortunately got hurt only like 4 days before the competition because he was doing some
sausage.
Because he was, you know, he was doing some stand up, and there's nothing wrong with thinking and having a mentality like I gotta work on this, no doubt. But sometimes it's like you gotta be like, all right, it's competition week, you know. Like I already know as much as I'm gonna know stand up at this point. You're not gonna learn anymore instinctively. You're not gonna.
Not in a couple days.
Not in a couple days.
Yeah.
So, and this isn't a knock.
No.
No.
I'm just throwing it out there. But by all means, it just, you know, because it made me think. Because the weird part was in that scenario, I thought about it. I was like, oh man, you know, it was Wednesday. I'm like, this guy's competition in 4 days.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, I like looked away and looked back, and he's like holding his fucking pinky, you know, his finger, and I was like, oh fuck, he got hurt. I was like, fuck. I was just thinking to myself, like, yeah, they probably shouldn't stand, you know, just because it's so close. And it was just like, dude, you're risking injury every time you fucking step on the mats. I understand that. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't. I don't know. It's just overall, you got to trust your instincts. You got to go with your gut.
There's 100% a disclaimer when you do jiu-jitsu. You ask the question, will I lose weight? Yeah, you'll lose weight. Will it become more flexible? Yeah, you'll become more flexible. Is my mind going to get healthier? Yeah. Are you going to get hurt?
All those things.
100% you'll get hurt. 101%.
100%. But it's all about how much you put into it. Is how much you get out of it too. Yep. You know what I mean?
It can be prevented though too.
Yeah, I mean, you could prevent a lot of injuries. I think that you even know it too. Like you'll be in rolls, things happen, and you'll be like, man, I'm happy I thought this way, or I'm happy I took care of this and that way.
Yeah. So yeah, and you know, it's funny that I'm glad that you bring it up that way too, because that kind of brings to mind the things that I highlighted tonight were self-care things you can do, or like physical steps you can take, not so much philosophical steps that you can take to prevent injury. And those are also, I think, important points to consider, you know, namely being ego, and you know, you're not going to get hurt if you don't. Of course, accidents happen, but you know, I'll have to get back to you guys in the exact quote, but I think there's a one of the Gracies has a great quote of saying, like, you know, picture the rubber band, for instance, right? Like paraphrasing, you know, the rubber band can only stretch so far. So if the two of you and your opponent both are tug of war with a rubber band, if you both go all at it 100%, the rubber band's going to snap. Whereas if you give and when your opponent takes a little bit and vice versa, you can keep that
balance.
You know, it's a balance. You can prevent injury much easier that way. If you both kind of have that mindset
and elevate each other. But that's an excellent point. There's a philosophical, you know, that's definitely going to be a theme for me on the shows. I'm always going to go back to, and that's a Hickson
your
mindset.
Feelings. You always go back to your feelings.
The four layers, the four walls to always improve your jiu-jitsu. The mental, the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual. If you can control all four, and the spiritual can just be, you know, some people may argue that, but the spiritual can be, it's you. It's what makes you tick and what makes you feel better that you can't equate to being physical or emotional.
Conscience.
It's like, yeah, exactly. Like there's things there that could be the spiritual side to it. If you want to be a Jedi.
Yeah.
But you do need to think about that. And I think a lot of that has to do with intent. You know, if you have intent, I think that's a huge part of
course,
not
it's how you
getting
manifest
injured.
anything.
Yes.
Intent. You speak it out to the universe, and
like if
you know,
if you go in there, if you go into your matches on a nightly basis and you say, I'm going to work with my training partners tonight, and the intent of my training tonight is to compete. So when I go to my my partners, I'm going to say, hey, I really want to go up tonight. I really want to go hard. And if the person's like, I can't tonight, then you say, okay, maybe you flow with them. Maybe you go find another partner that wants to compete at a high level. But that level of intent now, I'm now going to fight hard. So if I get hurt, it's kind of almost expected. Like you're going super hard. Now, when you're swimming and you're flowing, that's a different story. Now you're communicating with your partner again. Like, hey, look, I told you about it. I was rolling with you. Shout out to Will, one of our purple belts. I was rolling with him, and I was really focused on Friday night, and I was rolling hard. And I caught myself, and I was like, I'm using a lot of strength, and I'm not using my technique. And he said to me, he stopped me, and he said, in Spanish, to me, he said, "Vamos al estilo de los viejos," which is let's do old style jiu-jitsu. Like old man jiu-jitsu, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand him. It's not that he wants to not do anything. He wants to flow. He wants to dance. He wants to explore and find things that are
at your
fun.
level, bro. That's gonna be one of the most important things that you have to like distinguish and figure out, before you're purple, is finding that dance.
Yeah. So
yeah.
It's like a feeling, right? Like when you're doing it, like
I can see you do it sometimes, but there's times where like if there's a position on you, you're like no, like he just turns into the Hulk.
Yeah,
grips get really tight and everything. I'm like, oh, here we go. There's gonna be no movement whatsoever.
Oh man, it's cool though, because like at least I could look at it and like, you know what I mean, and reflect on it and be accepting of it and know that that's something I need to work on.
Oh, it's part of growing.
Yeah. Right? Well, there's plenty of people
that's the only way you're gonna. But my point being is that's why you're gonna grow from it, and not that we have that issue in our school, but that's why people won't grow when they don't think. Right? You don't discover what the issue is. How can you move forward?
That's a cool feeling, right? Like when you're in that dance, and you're in that flow, and like it just keeps moving and it doesn't stop. And there's no stall, and it's you go into a submission and then you just release it and you just keep moving, and you both are working hard. You're both getting a lot of good exercise, but you're also
it's from the movement.
It's great for mobility. Yeah,
that's where you realize like I'm a little more tired than I expected because we were flowing. I didn't think I was that tired while I was moving, but you realize just the movement itself is like
definitely a sense of euphoria when you really like peak during that dance. You're like, wow, like this is.
I was above myself watching myself train. It was crazy.
Out of the body experience.
So yeah, I mean, that's with Ed Talk. We got one question submitted by AMAC, and it's an oldie but a goodie. So AMAC wants to know from Ed, what is your favorite submission and why?
I guess it's changed over the years, but.
Let's do that.
I guess I know they're not triangles. Armbar. It's armbar.
Yeah, you're good at them.
I have
It's really good.
I don't know. I can get them from like any position, pretty much. Not that I can get them easily, but I know how to like. I just know how to get arm bars from a lot of different positions.
Mm-hmm.
That's an armbar.
What you said before that.
Solid answer. A solid answer.
Well, I didn't fully answer it. She said why. So I guess the reason why is
because I'm good at it.
I don't know, because you realize when you're transitioning in positions, the arm is always dangling somewhere. There's always an arm out there, and if you really understand each sequence, whether you're in north-south, whether you're in side control, mount, you start understanding where to get the arm in a position where I can like scoot and attack it. And just over years, it's like it became more of I don't know. I guess that's one of the things, like everybody's different, right? But I guess it's one of those things where I would see the arm, and I basically was able to manage through the years where to get it, whether from the bottom, top, side control, north,
Right.
south.
You've like widened your vision for being able to find them.
Yeah, like I just
you
feel
can
like
find them from many places.
once I figured out like from a couple positions, the arm's always right there, and I'm like, well, what other positions are there? Oh shit, it's like almost always there, So like I don't know. That's kind of how I built mine. But it's obviously not it's not the only submission I really like.
I saw a really cool one this week from like a was it like an over under pass where you reach across and start putting pressure on the neck from the opposite shoulder and coming down, and then inevitably they're going to start framing, and then he like kind of hopped up and over the body. The close leg goes under the arm, and the far one goes over the head.
It's slick. It's a slick.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice. I added it to the drilling note, I think, so that we can. Great idea, by the way. Yeah, we need to start opening that note up when we have some mat time and going with that. But yeah, I don't know. You guys got anything else? We're at an hour 10.
I mean, that's all. I mean, there's no other questions you guys have.
I mean, I was gonna ask Lenny what his favorite submission was.
Mine.
This guy's a loop choke. Do it all day.
Not so much the
you like bow and arrow a lot, right?
I love bow and
I
arrow.
used to love bow and arrow a lot. I don't.
It's a high percentage of submissions. I'm not the only one, right, who's going to favor bow and arrows. I think for me, the reason why I like them so much is because I've gotten good at sinking the choking arm in when I'm transitioning. So I know that's an open time to find the collar, like reach, get that hand sunken in and get that thumb in grip in like early. And also, you know, the trick that Radji taught us, being able to adjust that thumb in grip by just pulling the slack out slowly. It doesn't have to be all at once, man. You make a movement, your opponent moves, you pull a little slack. You do a little movement, you pull a little slack. Eventually, a bow and arrow gets very tight, and it's easy to kind of sink into that. But I also really like my other favorite move is it's like an arm triangle choke from guard with the lapel over the back. Right, I don't exactly know what it's called. Even you guys know exactly.
From close guard.
From close guard, lapel goes behind the back of the head, and you opposite grip.
And person's in your close guard.
Radji won fight to win with that. That's Bravo. Is it Bravo? No, is it Bravo choke? Isn't it?
I just call it a head and arm choke. I
thought he won fight to win with that.
Which one?
The Bravo choke with the lapel over the back. Cross collar, and then
maybe you did.
It must be that. Maybe is that called Bravo? I'm sorry if I'm ignorant in what it's called. That one of my favorite.
The lapel, you bring it across the back, take a cross arm.
No, I know what you're talking about. I don't remember him winning on that.
Then the reason why I call it a head and arm is because usually I don't finish it with just the cross collar. I wait for them. I set it up with the cross collar, and then when they reach up, I take the sleeve of the arm and I pull it across, and I lean up and pull. So it ends up being a head and arm or an arm triangle from the guard. I mean,
I do have a good question for Eddie. So obviously lower belts, white and blue. It's exciting when you get to a submission. When you finally get there, because you have to be able to control that position to be able to get to the submissions, unless you're trying something that's like explosive, that isn't very high percentage. So for a lower belt, white and blue, that has gotten to a point where they're, inching towards a submission, but it's not there yet, like it's not sunk in. What would your advice be on how to progress when you've gotten to a point where you're like, I don't know if I can finish this, or if you're really pulling hard.
All right, so you're saying
trying to finish it and it's not happening.
All right, so okay, so a couple things, if I understand your question correctly. So you're saying like, all right, so someone's got a triangle. Maybe they got it locked in. They're not pulling on the head or something, some minor adjustment like that, or they don't have the arm across or something like that. So you're saying basically like,
when do you let go? Do you move on to? Do you keep trying to fight to figure it out?
I mean, listen, if you're overexerting energy, it's like really squeezing something like that, and they're not tapping, you're doing something wrong. So I would just say
you're only burning energy.
I would say be patient, hold the position, especially if you're like, oh man, this triangle's locked in, but something's off. Like I'm just using an example. It's like, all right, well, his arm is not across. He's doing a triangle this way, but like he's got his arm here. And it's like, oh, it's tight. And the guy's got a little bit of breathing room. It's like, all right, well, just stay there and wait for him to move. Like maybe you don't even know. I mean, if you weren't paying attention in class or something, but maybe you don't even know that move, right? And you're like, oh, I forgot about this detail. Sometimes if you just stay patient, God, maybe he'll move into that position. Like, oh yeah, I got to pull the arm across. I would just say, if you have something, and if you squeeze in the first like 4 or 5 seconds, they're not tapping. I mean, if you really feel like you have it cinched in, then you're doing something wrong. So I just stay patient and kind of like, all right, he's not getting out of this. Let him make a mistake and move, and then like try to like figure it out and make the adjustments. And if he gets out, he gets out. No big deal. And then you just go, all right, that didn't work. Hey, upper belt or Radji or whoever. Hey man, I had him here. I had him in this position. Does this feel tight? And okay, walk me through it. Why didn't I finish it? That's it. That's all you really need to do.
And that's probably like the most important piece of that, all of that.
Yeah,
right?
don't be afraid to ask like right after either. Like,
and focus on try to find those focal points, because that's what's going to give you like your clues as to how you're going to progress. Because if you
everyone's going to remember differently too, right? Like if you don't, you might plug different pieces together than somebody else will. So you might remember, oh, this arm, this side, whatever it is, like pneumatic devices, right? Like there's certain things, but you can only get that through repetition and questioning.
Yeah, and sometimes you get put in a position and like you and your partner fell into that position and you're like, oh, I have him in something, but I never actually worked on this position. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
Radji uses words sometimes, and it has that kind of pneumatic device effect on me. Like for example, he once was explaining from a high technical mount with his knee up and the arm at the hip. He used the word hook, and it was to hook. He used the arm up, and you could grab at your own collar to hold the arm, or you could just stay hooked, but it needed to be hooked. And now that word, in my role,
you can't forget
in
it.
so many different places.
Yeah.
I can.
Yeah, but like think about what your actual gesture is doing. Your fucking hook.
Yeah,
so it's easier
hook.
to think and because again, everybody's memory and their learning curve is different, and it's like right there, you're doing a physical thing that looks like an object that goes with the word that you're saying.
There's a kind of loop around when you talk about philosophical and when you talk about intent, like as you're training, doing things like that, like saying like, oh, like use a word, like hook, he hooked. And now as you're training, remember that. So as you're flowing, you look for times to hook. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, language is huge. Language is huge, and I think that the better teachers are more apt at exploiting that.
We're lucky enough to have a wordsmith as a professor, bro.
It makes
He's
it
honestly,
so much easier.
I mean, I don't think I'm being biased, but he's honestly one of the best, professors out there at articulating exactly like. I mean, he takes his time and he breaks down moves, and it's like, I mean, I want to get to that point, but I can understand where like sometimes I'm like, it's easier for me to just I'll just put your arm there, because I'm more of a visual learner myself. So sometimes like, and a lot of people are obviously the other way, and if you can articulate your language in a way where someone can really understand it, then great, that's perfect. That's probably best for the majority of people. Like, for me, the way I learn, it's more of a visual. Let me see it once. I'm like, I got it figured out kind of thing.
Yeah.
In that sense, I'm more of a visual learner. If I read something, I'm like, what? I fucking read it a couple times.
I find that if I can articulate it, then I know it. If I can explain it to you,
that makes me better at it. The minute I'm able to articulate, when I teach, and if I can articulate it even better, it makes me have, like you said, a better understanding of what I'm even actually doing, because I'm like explaining in my head more. So otherwise, it's more instinctual. It's like, it's more like, your understanding of fights when you're like, I go on feelings. That's how you are in the beginning until you're able to start articulating things in your brain, break down things logically. That's where all the feelings and all that shit goes away, because all you're working on at that point is just gut.
That's so cool, because it's like, it's like as you train, it's really important that you do have conversations
with yourself and
with yourself, because you have to be able to break it down. Because if you can't break it down,
well, it just makes your overall thinking process of whatever you're learning better. You know what I mean? Like, use whatever you need to like first get it into your like system, as far as understanding, and then really like dissect it. And like you said, have that conversation with like people, yourself, to really be able to articulate back to your brain. It only adds, I mean, like you can know something, but it only makes it better if you're able to like basically write a book about it in your head as you break it down in your head, and you know all the nuts and bolts of how it works, and that's how you have That's how you become a master at craft. Is when you really understand.
Yeah.
There's not an inch of this place or this space that I don't understand and know about. At that point when you're thinking about something.
You've done a deep dive into each part of it that you don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super dope.
Nice.
Super dope.
Yeah.
Great conversation.
Yeah, it was awesome. I think we had a great podcast tonight.
Yeah.
Hope that everyone listening agrees. We had a lot of live listeners tonight. It was amazing. Thanks again, you guys, for joining in. As every week, tonight's podcast has been brought to you by Radji Barrett Jiu Jitsu Academy. If you're cool, you can train here. Follow Radji at Radji Barrett Jiu Jitsu on Instagram and check out his website at RadjiBarrettJiu-Jitsu.com. Check out his schedule. Check out his gear. You can come train with him, the rest of the Academy members, and the adaptive guys at Radji Barrett Jiu Jitsu Academy in Fords. Shout out to everybody who competed this week. Our Academy did amazing. You guys and girls are competitors to the last second. You guys are all amazing. You deserved every last bit of it, even the losses.
You guys are the inspiration.
You're the inspiration for this. Thank you so much for tuning in. We love you. It's awesome. And you guys really deserve all the credibility that you're going to get from that. And if you didn't get the outcome that you wanted, ask the questions, keep training, do our injury prevention methods, stay on the mats, and get better, get out there. So
Adapt or get tapped.
Adapt or get tapped. Check out our gear at adaptivejujitsu.com. We got great rash guards, great patches for all your stuff. We got new stuff coming in just a couple weeks. You can check out our videos at Adaptive Jiu-Jitsu on Instagram. And each week we'll be bringing this podcast to you on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Pretty much on Sundays, we try to announce it as soon as we can decide,
Usually like an hour before. So,
we're trying to get better at that. But
your butts.
that being said,
we're still working on being cautious.
that being said, we're still doing a great job and we're growing each and every week. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating and for helping us grow. We love you. It's been another great week. Remember, adapt or get tapped. This has been the Adaptive Podcast, episode 9. See you guys next week.
Deuces. Man, I got a shit. Mike was muted anyway.
This setup makes it easier for us to get shit.
The round table is so much better, yeah.
Dude, this